This is The Whole Truth, brought to you by the Greenville County Democratic Party. From local city councils and school boards to the South Carolina legislature and the nation, we provide a clear-eyed view of the whole truth surrounding the decisions, the policies, and the politics that have a direct impact on your family, your neighbors, and you. In this episode, Christale Spain, the chair of the state-level South Carolina Democratic Party, joins Stacey and Charles to share her thoughts, updates, and directions. Also, Charles and Steve chat briefly about two recent issues that have arisen at the South Carolina General Assembly and what they mean to you. Here now is the interview with Christale Spain with our hosts, Stacey Mars and Charles Morris.
Hey guys, we're back again with another episode of The Whole Truth with me, Stacey Mars, the chair of the Greenville County Democratic Party, and Charles Morris, the third vice chair, who recently just got into the Clyburn Fellowship. Congratulations, Charles.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair Spain, for specifically selecting me personally. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We have with us the South Carolina Democratic Party chair, Christale Spain.
Oh, thank y'all so much for having me. Thank y'all so much. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking your time. I know you are in the midst of a lot going on right now. You have several dignitaries, I guess, coming to Greenville, South Carolina. I want them to come to Greenville.
They're coming.
In the next few weeks. So I know your time is valuable. So we're just going to jump in, and have a conversation. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So, your journey started with the party in 2012, right? You started as a volunteer. Will you tell us a little bit about what you've learned on your journey, just starting as a volunteer, and how it's shaped the way that you organize and lead today?
I think if there's one thing that I've learned a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot about politics. I've learned a lot about process. But I think if there's one thing that I learned, it's that showing up matters. Show up. If you got a problem, show up. If you want to see change, show up. So that's kind of the biggest thing I think that I've learned. And then I think that how it's shaped how I organize. I try to show up for people when I try to do what I say I'm going to do. I don't know how much it matters, but when you're in the minority, I think those things do matter, like being dependable, being able to, when people have access to you, I think that's important because we're trying to win all over the state. We're trying to win anywhere we can. So not letting the small things, get dismissed. Trying to look at everything, but we can't always look at everything. But just trying to show up and paying attention to everything that we can pay attention to.
Absolutely. And I think you did a lot of that last year, especially when it came to special elections.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And how you didn't discount any of them, even, and I speak from experience. I came to you with this crazy, I want to do a write-in campaign, and y'all were just like, okay.
Let's do it.
This is fantastic. So, talk to us a little bit about that, because you're really kind of the first chair, and I haven't been at this a long time, but you're really the first chair I've seen that actually went after the special election. So what made you decide to do that?
Because I think that's the best path to victory for us, is a special election. I think that, everybody it's a smaller electorate, it's shorter runway. So I think that it's beneficial to us. It's probably beneficial to the other parties too, but it's just beneficial because it's a smaller electorate, because it's a shorter runway. I think you got an opportunity to do more with less, if that makes sense. And it's harder to get more too. So it kind of just, levels itself out. But I think that's a part of not letting anything. How do I want to say it? You just don't take anything for granted, right? If we want to, flip the caucus, or if we want to break the supermajorities at the state house, we can't afford to say, oh, we can't win that. We can't win this. We have to continue to try to fight everywhere, and get candidates used to running, and get county parties used to organizing around their candidates. And I think that special elections are like dry runs. Because, you're always getting, as county parties, you're always getting folks coming in and wanting to volunteer. And if there's something to do, you can hold on to those volunteers. But if they've got to lag along for, months at a time, they might fall off. So I think that there's so many benefits in special elections for the entire ecosystem for the party.
Well, because every seat is critical, right?
Yeah, every seat is critical.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I got just one more question. Sorry. Do you remember how many special elections you won last year? Because people kept asking, what is the party doing? What is the party doing? And I'm like, are y'all paying attention? They just won a special election. Like, what is wrong
Everywhere,
with
all
you?
over the state.
No, I don't know. I can't even remember. Last year was 2025, the special elections. I know the Dorchester folks worked really hard at the beginning of the year. We won the very first special election of the year down in Dorchester County with a county council seat. With Peter Smith, that was a Republican county council seat. We flipped that seat, and the county party and all those folks worked really hard down there to do that work. There was the Lee County special election with the State House with Keyshawn Scott. I can't remember the number, but that was a Democratic seat. But the big thing about that was that we increased the margin. Like, he worked really hard. He had a strong team. We were able to increase his margin of victory. Instead of just kind of eking by, he one-handedly, and that mattered because that was basically the trend across the country that Democrats were winning, and they were winning big, and so it was great that South Carolina could also demonstrate that we were also winning here in a red state. Those are the two that come to mind. I definitely remember the ones that we lost toward the end of the year, our Christmas gifts and our New Year's gifts. But even though in those losses we were able to increase our margin, right? Increase our share of the vote, especially down there in House District 98 in Dorchester, again, in that same part of the county where we ended up losing. I think the final vote count was we lost by 17 votes, and there were 22 precincts. After they did the recount, it was 17, I believe, but it was initially 21. But once they recounted, I think it went down to 17. And only 22 precincts, so that's less than one vote per precinct. But Trump won that district the year before, 2 years earlier, by 7 points.
Oh, wow.
So that just shows, if we keep working, these folks are here. Our voters just need to hear from us. And the special elections up in Greenville and Spartanburg, where we did write-in candidates, I don't think the seat that you guys helped with, the candidate you found, I was there when you found them, had anybody run that seat before, right? It's been a while.
Right.
So that matters for that district to have a Democrat to vote for. Oh, wait a minute, they're Democrats over here? That matters now for the next time. Those voters won't go in and vote for Republicans because there's a Democrat there. So we get to see, it's a new data set. We get to see what the Democrats look like over there in that part of Greenville County.
Madam Chair, I couldn't agree more. Showing voters that not only is the Democratic Party here and active, that they have a choice, right?
Yeah.
So kind of piggybacking on that, you've led the party through a previous cycle that was pretty tough, included some national moments, spotlight moments, tough losses statewide. What do you think was the hardest lesson from the 2024 cycle, which was pretty much at the beginning of your term, right? And how did that change the way that you and the state party approached the work?
I think that's part of the shift, right? I think in 23 we did do the municipal stuff, but we started a little bit later. But 24 made us be more intentional about we just lost pretty big in places where we shouldn't have lost. But I won't say we shouldn't have lost because we knew we were on defense in a lot of places, and we knew we were on offense, and we invested heavily in these districts. I want to say that we spent $150,000 in the 24 cycle with no statewide races. That was just basically for the party's role to try to put ourselves on offense in some state house districts and to try to defend these Senate seats. But the lesson was, for us, the biggest takeaway was that when the top of the ticket underperforms, and although I love Kamala and she ran a great race, she had 107 days, but she underperformed here in South Carolina, and that hurt the rest of our ballot. And so we lost. So we definitely understand now, I think, more people understand now that the top of the ticket has to overperform, right? They have to meet the mark. They've got to get a certain percentage of the votes, or it's going to lag the rest of the ballot. So that's one of the big takeaways. Is we've got to have a strong person running at the top of the ticket because those tailwinds are real. They're real. They're definitely real. And we got to encourage folks to finish their ballot. The other big takeaway was the drop off, the undervote.
Keep going down the ballot.
The amount of people that went in and voted for Kamala and didn't vote for anybody else. That was crazy. It was disturbing. So those are the big takeaways.
Just to follow up on that real quick, what is the biggest difference in a midterm, right? You don't have a big name at the top of the ticket coming up in November. How does that affect party strategy statewide?
How does it affect party strategy statewide? I think it provides us an opportunity because it also means the same thing on the Republican side. Like all the voters kind of feel the same way about the midterm. And I think the benefit for us is that normally when the other party has the White House, the minority party does better in the midterm. So we're looking forward to that holding true and doing better. But I think the on the ground organizing matters more because unless it's 2020 and you got Jamie Harris and money, you don't have the money to make the noise that a presidential candidate would be making and being on TV and all these ads. You're working with less financial resources, so you need more human capital. You depend more on your volunteers to go knock doors, to make phone calls, to do all those things to touch as many of our voters as we can touch to mobilize them in November.
Absolutely. So a question on that one is because in this one, we have the gubernatorial race this time, and it's a bit different than it has been in the past because Governor McMaster, right, it's an open seat. So how do you think that will play into all of this?
I think we get to watch the circus on the other side. That's also a benefit. Yeah, we get to watch them, rip each other to shreds on the other side before they get to their eventual nominee. I think we've got less of a dogfight on our side. So you have that. And then we also have a U.S. Senate race as well. So we've got two big statewide races that, could end up really going our way if we end up with really strong nominees.
Right. And so we've talked a little bit about how we live in a Republican-dominated state and have for 20 plus years. And in that time, I know that morale has gone down a lot for people. So what are we doing or what can we do to build morale and long-term strategy in an environment where it's really difficult to win?
I think things like this. I think that our microphone, when I say our, I mean like the Democrats. I think that was one of the big things in 2024. We had a smaller microphone than the Republicans. They had all these podcasts and all this stuff. People were just, they had all these entry points to get misinformed about the Republican Party. And I think the more that we're able to talk about Democrats and what Democrats are doing and also running Democrats everywhere, every time, I think that helps. Right. And what we started at the state party is a year-round organizing program called the Democracy Builders, where it's really a neighbor-to-neighbor organizing effort where, if you sign up, you're responsible for 30 to 50 of your neighbors. All of them are not, real dependable Democrats. But like just having folks talking to each other about what Democrats are doing, like what's happening, here's the election, because I think people miss so much information all the time. Like we're constantly doing stuff. I know Greenville, you're always doing stuff, and people will say, what are y'all doing? Why aren't y'all doing anything? And you're like working yourself to grinding yourself to a halt.
Got that question before?
Never get that question.
And folks don't ever see it. So I think that everything that we're doing is trying to get outside of the bubble, trying to speak outside of the bubble and make sure that we're talking to the voters that we keep missing, I think.
I appreciate what y'all are doing now as far as your social media. Like I was just actually watching a clip of Representative Bamberg.
Yeah, it was good.
He is a personality.
Right? Yeah.
And how you guys are like showcasing the representatives, because I think that a lot of times that's what people miss is they don't know who is representing them where.
Yes.
And so for y'all to like actually have these clips of them and putting them out there for us to be able to circulate, I think that really helps and makes it real for people because now they can put a name with a face and vice versa and that kind of thing. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think our social media is doing really well because we've got trolls. They're just there all the time. We post stuff. It was nobody at y'all event. Blah, 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 blah. Like, how would you know if you weren't on this page lurking?
Right.
You're here commenting.
Means they're scared, man.
I need Ozempic. Like, that's fine. I see you in my comments.
What?
So I feel like we have arrived on social media because we've got plenty of trolls.
Exactly. You know you're doing something right when you have people trolling you.
No, I mean, I love that. It's about shining a light on the party. It's about shining a light on our elected officials, meeting
100%.
people where they are. You know, Stacey says that all the time, and I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of shining a light, we had the first presidential primary with a new calendar. What did that moment mean for the state party? And are we going to be able to keep that first in the nation position in 2028?
You know, that was a big moment for the state party. I wasn't the chair at the time. Travis Robinson Jr. was the chair. He had his own leadership at the time, but I believe it was a bit of a surprise. We were at the same moment that we're in now, where we're going through the process of the DNC figuring out, you know, how they're going to set the calendar, or what the calendar is going to look like. And President Biden just kind of, you know, jumped in and said, hey, you know, I got a great idea. South Carolina should be first. We need to change this calendar. And it was a big deal because people are always talking about, and like Democratic candidates for president have been saying, and I think most recently in that 2020 election, it really came back again with, I always get them confused. The Castro brother that was running for president, he started being vocal again about like this calendar is not reflective of the base of our party. Like our primary calendar. Is it Julian that was running for president? Julian?
Yeah.
Julian.
Yeah, running for president. So he started being vocal about it again, that, you know, starting with Iowa, New Hampshire and Iowa doesn't make sense because it doesn't represent the base of our party, which it wasn't a new argument. People had made it before. So when Biden decided to do that, you know, people felt like it was because he owed South Carolina something because South Carolina helped right the ship where his election was concerned. But it was him saying, like, we got to change this because our party doesn't look like that anymore. Like our party is very diverse. And I think starting with a place like South Carolina made him a better candidate. Like it made everybody, when they got to South Carolina, like you've got to be able to talk to Black folks, white folks, students, veterans, seniors, you know, active duty military. Like we've got it all here. Like we've got a major coalition. And so I think that it made him a better candidate. And I believe that that's probably why he did it. But South Carolina having the opportunity to go first in 24 was great. But, you know, it was we opened our primary because we're Democrats. We didn't close it because we had the White House. Like, you know, what would have been something that made sense to do. But whatever, we were first. So we were excited that it wasn't closed. But we had a contested primary that wasn't competitive because you have the president, right? Yeah. So anybody that steps up to challenge the sitting president probably isn't going to be very serious, right? Or taken very serious. So we had this awkward primary where folks really didn't campaign. We had Marianne Williamson, we had Congressman Dean Phillips, and they definitely did not mount a campaign here in South Carolina because had they done that, they would have been in Greenville campaign. They would have been all over trying to talk to voters, and they didn't do that. So the state party, as you know, was actively trying to just like engage voters and let folks know there was a primary. So it was a good opportunity for us, but it wasn't the real opportunity. It wasn't the real test of what the new calendar is. So we enjoyed it, but we're looking forward to having another bite at that apple in 26. So we're in the midst of that process. The DNC's RBC, which is the Rules and Bylaws Committee members, make that decision. So they had an application process, a request for proposals. We, South Carolina Democratic Party, submitted our proposal along with 12 or 11 other states. I think it was a total of 12 states. And they broke it down into regions. And there were 5 from the southern region, I believe. We applied, North Carolina applied, Georgia applied, Tennessee, and Virginia, which we all know is not the South, but according to the DNC. And so New Hampshire, of course, and there were some other states across the country that applied. And so we met the RBC, and I'm a member of the RBC committee. There are 50 members. And we met, and the decision was made to let everybody move forward to the presentation process. So at some point in May, we're going to present our case. For everybody will present their case, but South Carolina is going to present our case, make the case on why we should be first. We'll be early. We're applying to be early, and they decide what the calendar looks like. But I believe we've got a pretty strong case to make. And one thing I'll say, and just because you guys are leaders in the party, and I think you probably already understand, Stacey, is that South Carolina is unique in the fact that we are the only state, for sure in the South, probably one of the only states, period, where the party, the SCDP, the party apparatus, sets the presidential primary date.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is either in their constitution, or it's a legislative action, or it's an action of the Secretary of State. That's not our case. Right here, like on Saturday with our executive committee, like when the time comes, I will present a date to the executive committee based on what the DNC has decided the calendar should look like, and the executive committee members will vote to approve this is our date. And same thing for the Republicans and any other party in the state. So that gives us tremendous flexibility that Georgia doesn't have, North Carolina didn't have, Virginia probably could have now that they've got their governor, a Democratic governor. But so I want to make sure folks understand that, like, we have that flexibility in our law that I don't think any other state really has.
I just want to say real quick, just to follow up on that, let's cut the last 5 minutes of this, Michael, because she just made the case, right? Because South Carolina being a more diverse representation of the Democratic base, right, forces better candidates to rise to the top.
Yeah.
And I think it's a slam dunk, no-brainer, Madam Chair. So, Michael, let's cut this and send it over to them. And
the other piece you can add is that South Carolina is a small state, too. We don't bank campaigning here wouldn't bankrupt your campaign.
Right.
We've got, 5 media markets, and we share 2 of them with Georgia and North Carolina. So when you communicate across South Carolina, you're also communicating with some folks in Charlotte, folks in Savannah. Mm-hmm. So it's just such a win-win. Like, I could just go down and check boxes on top of boxes on why South Carolina is good for the party.
So when do we expect them to set the calendar?
Probably sometime later in the year, maybe around August, September.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long process.
I'm just long process.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
Yeah, a long process, and I think the Republicans just voted last time to leave their calendar alone. So they're not even doing this.
Well, they don't have any reason to.
I'm like, why mess them with it if it ain't broke?
Right. They got what they wanted.
Exactly.
So, let's talk about growth a little bit, right? Because I know in the past years we've kind of lost some Democrats, and not that they went to the other party. It's just that they either stopped voting, or they just felt like they haven't been heard, right? And so, and I know that has happened quite a bit here in South Carolina. At least that's what I've been hearing. So, can you speak to how we get them back, or get that growth back, and if there are specific communities or groups of people that we should be really out there talking to?
We're looking at all the data from the last year's election. Matt's going through that now. So I want to see what that looks like for South Carolina. Like, I can listen to what national folks are saying, and some of that probably connects here, and some of it might not. But of course, I think getting young folks involved earlier rather than later, making a better, stronger effort to engage with young people. And I also think too, and one thing that we have to always try to remember and add is that's also a candidate campaign function, like doing this in their direct voter contact efforts as well, especially in a moment where we're so polarized, where we got your team versus my team, the Democrats versus the Republicans, and the Democratic brand we need some work, right? So folks are all, if I come and say, you should come and be a Democrat. No, F you, I don't want to be a Democrat. But if you're running for office and you're like, hey, I'm running, and because I want to make things affordable and I want to do that, they're like, oh, I'm with you. And you say, I'm a Democrat, you're like, it's less of a barrier. So also just arming our candidates with better data, and we've definitely been doing that, is a part of it. I think what we're doing, like trying to engage folks, the low-hanging fruit, and beyond that, to expand our base, but the young folks, I think, is a piece of the pie that we're missing. And also just making sure that we're over communicating to Black men. Because somewhere our message is getting twisted with them, and we got to figure that piece out before it's too far gone.
Absolutely.
And
Does
that answer your question?
It did. I mean, and those are things that I've heard, especially when it comes to the Black men that we need to know and how we get in with them, and young people as well. I mean, that's always the thing. It's how do we get the young people, right? Because it seems like everything that we've tried, like since Obama, hasn't worked.
Because you say since Obama, right? It was a candidate who was able to engage these folks and get them excited. It wasn't necessarily the party.
Right.
It was a transformational candidate.
Yeah, it was a candidate.
And I think on one level, though, he spoke their language. And, I really took it to heart when Governor Beshear came here and he said the same thing. And I was like, you're right. Like, we have to stop using these buzzwords.
Governor Walz, Governor Walz at the convention said the same thing.
Yeah. So I think it's really kind of actually bringing some young people in that can help us speak their language, because I don't speak their language anymore.
It's so quick to stop speaking the language. Right. One day you don't communicate with them. Like, what are you talking about?
Right, exactly. And then, figuring it out.
Exactly.
So, I mean, oh, I'm sorry, man.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, I mean, that speaks directly to messaging, right? And in the South, our culture is so unique that national democratic messaging may not always kind of translate the same way. What do you think is a winning message in the southern states for the Democratic Party? I know that's a broad, strong, hard question.
Every time I get a question about like messaging, I always kind of, shift back to like candidates. Like it normally comes from the candidate. Think about Make America Great Again. That wasn't the Republican Party's message. That was Trump's message. Right? That came from the candidate. Yes, we can. That came from Barack Obama. Fired Up, Ready to Go. That came from Edith Giles, right? A person at a candidate event. Right. So I feel like it's such a huge task for the party. Like when I say the party, I'm talking about like the party apparatus, a part of the thing that you all are a part of, to try to come up with this all-encompassing message that works in Greenville and also works in Clarendon and also works in Oconee. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that exists. Or I don't know that we're the people to create it and then lay it on our candidate. Like, oh, here's what you got to say. You know what I'm saying? I think that
it's not as authentic that way, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I think
Well, like you were saying, a lot of the rural areas are not the same as what we consider the big city areas here.
Right.
Yeah.
In South Carolina. Right. Like it's just not the same. So I can't go to Rock Hill, we'll say, or whatever, and expect the message that I would use in Greenville to work there. And, I tell my team that all the time. They're like, people want to know what the message is. And I was like, so when you say message, what do you mean? Because, tell me what you are actually looking for, because I don't think people know what they're looking for when they say, what is the messaging?
But we have seen what the party can do in a winning way in our city council races, right?
Yes.
Last November, where you guys were a tremendous help in getting 2 city council people elected, including an at-large seat. That was extremely important to keeping a majority on that council. So that's what we've seen that does win and does work.
Yeah. Like work partnerships, right? Like that's one of my major goals as the chair, is to be so that people see the party as a strong partner. Right. We don't have to always come in and drive the ship. Like if you got your campaign rolling, we want to come in and help you and support you. What can we do to help you? Because I'm down here in Columbia. I don't know, what you need, what the winning sauce is up in Greenville, but I can try to support your effort. But back to the message, I think the only message, if I could say, just in the past couple of years since we've been in Trump 2.0, that I think resonates from Lawrence all the way to Clarendon is fight back.
Yes.
Like, that's just what I can, we need to fight, stand up and fight back. Like that is the only thing that I can say that I've heard across the fight.
Yeah, they want us to use stronger language.
They want us to be fighting
language.
Fired up.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm okay with that.
And everybody's fighting language isn't the same.
Yeah, they want to hear those fighting words. That's what they want to hear.
Exactly. Which can be trigger words when we want to really get into a fight.
Right.
Yeah, maybe in Illinois, Senate campaigns message may not work the same in South Carolina, right?
You're right. Did you see the clip? Do you know what he's talking about? There's a
No.
Okay, so there's a lady running Stratton. I believe her last name is Juliana Stratton. She's running for lieutenant governor, and she has an ad out on social media, and she has a few people, and each of them say F Trump, vote for Juliana. And then it comes to her and she says, I didn't say it, they did. She talks about fighting.
Fight words.
She's like, I'll fight for the people of Illinois. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, I gotta see that.
I'll send it to you. So.
Oh, awesome. That sounds real creative.
It was very creative. So thank you for joining us today, Christale. Any last words you have for the people of Greenville? Any encouragement? Any advice to candidates?
I don't know. I think that now you put me on the spot. I have nothing to say. What I would say to a candidate? Nothing. I've been talking to them all day.
Well, we have former President Joe Biden coming. When is he coming?
Yes. So President Biden is coming here on Friday, February 27th. He will be in Columbia. We're having a celebratory reception and it's the anniversary of his historic 2020 win. Saturday is the actual day. February 28th is the actual day that he won South Carolina, and that changed the trajectory of his campaign. And he became a really transformational president. He did a lot of things that, sadly, he isn't able to really take credit for. All the things that he was able to do to help this state, to help the country, I'll say. So we want to just give him his flowers because who worse to succeed your presidency than Donald Trump? What?
Oh goodness!
What a terrible thing to happen. So we're going to celebrate him, and then on Monday, February 23rd, before Friday, Governor Gavin Newsom is going to be here, and he's going to make some stops down in Berkeley County and Clarendon County, and he has a book coming out, and he's going to do a book talk on at Winthrop in Rock Hill.
Rock Hill.
Yeah,
right.
Let me know if y'all want to go. Send me an email or text.
I got my ticket.
Oh, you got a ticket?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see you next week. I'll see you next weekend for sure.
Put me on the VIP if there's one, okay?
Oh, good. Y'all take y'all show on the road. Y'all should do it live.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, put me on that VIP list if there's one.
Oh, yeah, shoot me a text.
Okay, I will. And then the state convention. When is that?
Yeah, the state convention is Friday, the Democratic weekend is Friday, May 29th through Saturday, May 30th here in Columbia at the South Carolina Fairgrounds. The dinner is Friday. The fish fry always is going on while the dinner's going on, but we always leave the dinner and go to the fish fry, Clobber's world famous fish fry. And then on Saturday, we will have our state convention.
See, you did have something to say.
I know. So when I finish, I'll be like, oh, sorry.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm sure I will see you in the next few days. And thank you for accepting Charles into the Clyburn Fellowship.
Yes, thank you for accepting Charles.
Thank you so much for.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for changing Jay's mind and allowing me to come down there with y'all.
No, you were on the list. You were in green.
I'm kidding.
We made lots of mistakes.
No,
but,
I'm kidding.
We'll get that fixed.
I appreciate
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Y'all have a good one. Thank y'all so much.
You too. Thanks, Christale.
All right. Bye.
Next, we have just two of the recent South Carolina State House hot button issues with Charles and Steve.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of The Whole Truth. I am Charles Morris, third vice chair of the Democratic Party, Greenville County Democratic Party, not the whole Democratic Party.
Whatever. Represent whoever you'd like.
Okay, exactly.
I'm Steve Ramirez, first vice chair of the Greenville County Democratic Party.
So Steve and I will talk about a couple of things that are bubbling in the legislature.
State level legislature.
State level, the South Carolina House of Representatives. That will have an impact on all of us. So, Steve, what's the first one that we were going to talk about?
Well, your taxpayer funds and how they're being allocated.
Those pesky taxpayer dollars.
Misallocated,
come out of all of our paychecks.
Yeah. So the Senate of the South Carolina Assembly was basically slapping the hand of Ellen Weaver, the superintendent of education, recently because she has funneled a bunch of money that was not supposed to be sent that way to parents of homeschoolers. We had a bill a while back that said, yeah, we can do that, but make sure we're going to set up vouchers, but make sure it doesn't go to homeschoolers. That actually got shot down by the South Carolina Supreme Court. So they reintroduced a second bill to try and fix all that. And
specifically because public education is part of the South Carolina Constitution, but it's public education, not private and certainly not homeschooled. Just to clarify, that is codified in the Constitution of the state.
Correct. Yeah, and so even in the second law, Ellen Weaver and team looked at the legalese, the actual words, and decided they could interpret it in such a way that they could still funnel it out to these parents.
Oh, Republicans ignoring the law.
Well, interpret...
Oh, I'm sorry. Steve's much nicer than I am. These are smart people. Don't let them fool you. A lot of them. Ellen Weaver is a smart person. And this is not a different interpretation. This is a willfully malicious interpretation.
And that's basically what the South Carolina senators were saying to her. It's like, yeah, it may not be against the law, but, man, we have a serious trust issue with you. If you're willing to, break this, trust and do what we said pretty explicitly to not do.
And based on precedent, quite frankly, if this was to be challenged in the state courts, it's not a winning case. Yeah.
In the law, both laws explicitly prohibited dollars to homeschooling. Section 2D-2-D-4-E shall not not participate in
what was that section again?
2D4E. It's kind of like R2D2.
Yes.
Do not participate in home instruction program under section 59-6- Pretty darn clear, if you ask me. But somehow she and her team, her legal teams, chose to figure, we'll just reinterpret that.
Correct. And I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Steve, but anybody should be bothered by this, not just people with kids. It really kind of gets under my skin because, I do have two kids. My son is in a public school, and he goes to a very good public school here in Greenville County. But this should bother everybody because the idea that public money will be funneled to people to privately instruct their children in any manner they choose without regulation, without oversight, without state testing, as strict of state testing, without ensuring that there is an actual proper education being provided to these children to prepare them for life and to become productive members of society, which is kind of the whole point of education. That should bother everybody.
Civic education, yeah. I've lived in other states, and I know that the homeschooling rules there were at least more structured, where there were curricula, there were requirements, there were tests, and if you want to do this at home, you're on your own, you can do that, but you got to raise your kids in such a way that they actually can become upstanding citizens and
now there are programs you can do at home, like there are like public charter programs that are technically done at home, but you're still part of a school, right? This is people who are actually fully taking on the instruction 100% outside of an established curriculum. And that, to me, is a massive problem. And how big was the stipend, Steve?
$7,500 stipend.
$7,500. And how many students
1,182 students. There are 10,000 students that total received that, but 1,182 were used for at-home instruction.
So almost $8 million.
I can't do that math. I'm only an engineer, so.
Right. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of public money.
Your money.
That is a lot of your money. And that should bother you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know that's not as popular or as hard-hitting or as flashy of a of a topic, but that is an important one. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, the next one, a little more hot button. Preparing myself here. Sorry. I'm hydrating.
H. House Bill 4767. Thou shalt consult and work for ICE.
So this is kind of known as the ICE bill.
Yep.
You know, in political circles and people who are paying attention to what's happening in the House, right? Yeah. And that's a little confusing because it says it forces cooperation with ICE. It's actually a little bit more kind of subtly malicious than that. It forces any law enforcement agency that operates a correctional facility to sign what's known as a 287G agreement, which is an agreement to assist ICE in immigration activities. It's pretty broad. It's a pretty broad scope, honestly.
Yeah. There are actually 3 different levels of 287G. And just looking this up, and you've got.
And I'm sorry, just clarify.
Nope.
Detention facilities are usually operated by sheriff's departments, right? Which means you're forcing broad swaths of the state to basically fall under something like this.
Yeah, all the counties. Right now, not all counties in South Carolina are in 287 agreements with the federal government, but this would basically say thou shalt.
Correct.
Regardless of what your people want.
Force them to do it or provide, I think it says you have to provide evidence that you tried, and ICE said no. Which, let's be real, it's probably not going to happen.
Can I join the Nazis?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you.
No, not you.
So what are the different levels?
So, jail enforcement model which is what Greenville County is actually partaking in at this point. Deputizes selected jail or detention staff to screen people already in local custody for immigration status, place immigration detainers, and initiate immigration processing while they are in jail. Its activity is limited to being inside the jail, and officers are not supposed to use this authority in the field. So, jail enforcement model.
I would say on its face, that's not nearly as awful as some of the other ICE activities we've seen. But I have a sneaking suspicion that you're about to get to something that more resembles that.
Yeah, that one I think is probably the key thing to think about when you hear the word sanctuary cities. That one would be glossed over or ignored or not signed up to begin with. Right. With a sheriff's organization, they get somebody in, they suspect that they are undocumented immigrants, and they just process them through their own system. They don't call anybody at the federal level. They just handle it and then do whatever is needed, their own legal proceedings. Where in a 287 agreement, this person, these people in this correctional facility would be saying, hey, I got one here. Come and get them.
Yeah, exactly.
Send them to the humongous detention facility.
The concentration camp.
Yeah, concentration camp where they will sit there and wait. Are we going to deport them? No, but we're just going to make them hurt and punish them.
Conditions and lack of medical care and all of those things.
Concentration camp.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. I know. I'm sorry. That was very redundant. I just started describing the thing I said. Thank you, Steve.
So the next one is the Warrant Service Officer model, WSO model.
That doesn't even sound good.
Yeah. Trains and authorizes local officers that you're paying for with your dollars to serve and execute ICE administrative warrants, arrest warrants on people who are already in their jail's custody. Often described as a more limited or 287G light version with narrower powers and less training than a full jail reinforcement model. So, light or heavy, it's still doing their work for them.
But that's where those administrative warrants come up again. That I'm sure people have read about these.
Yeah, as opposed to the judicial warrants.
That are not signed by a judge. That ICE is taking extreme advantage of, acting like they're actual judicial warrants, and they can do whatever they want with them when they are not. Mm-hmm. Just a tool to take away people's due process.
When you make the laws
violate their civil rights.
Yeah. Interpret the laws however you like, then we can do that.
And now let's do that to people who are already trapped in a detention facility and can go nowhere.
So the third model, task force model, gives selected local officers authority to enforce certain immigration laws during routine policing in the community, traffic stops, patrols, not just in the jail. Considered the broadest and most powerful model, it effectively turns local police into frontline ICE agents out in the field. You are now paying your sheriff's office, your county police, your local police to be able to do ICE's work. So is that where you want your tax dollars going?
That's the one people need to be afraid of. Because the first two, we're talking about people who are already detained. So these are people who are arrested on reasonable suspicion of committing a crime, right? There is probably, no, there's not probably, there are arguments to be made to have some basic immigration enforcement in that realm, right? I think reasonable people could come to a compromise there. The way ICE is doing it, absolutely not. But is there something that could be done there? Yeah, of course, if you're reasonable. This is deputizing existing law enforcement officers to violate civil rights the way these goons have been doing all across the country. This is what's scary. This is what people should speak up about.
And here in South Carolina, I would imagine a lot of the people who sign up for law enforcement might lean that direction.
You think so, Steve?
I think so. From what I've seen.
Really? Shocking.
With a last name ending in a Z, yeah, I've seen that personally. Mm-hmm.
You know what's scary about that, though, Steve, is, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a great point. Because you and I both. I have my own feelings as a black man about law enforcement and my own concerns anytime I'm around them, honestly. But the names of the two ICE officers who executed Alex Preddy on the sidewalk were released. Do you know what their names were?
Hispanic, from what
Jesus Ochoa and Raimundo Gutierrez. So it's a different world where we all have to be afraid of ICE. Because Renee Good and Alex Preddy were both white people. This is a completely different environment, and that is why this is so scary. And to some people that sounds extreme to say that, but I think it's important that we recognize this danger and you speak up about it as your representatives in the House try to force a bill like this through that is extreme.
Call. 5 calls. Get the app. Make sure you get out there. You contact your representatives. Find out who they are. This 5 calls app, you can get it easily on mobiles.
Correct.
It will tell you what's going on, like these kind of agreements, and they will guide you to some of the talking points of what's going on. But get out there, start making calls. You can also write to your senators, your representatives. Make sure they hear your voice. That
you can also pay a visit.
And that too. Drop off a handwritten letter. It makes a big difference. It really does. Advocacy works. With this administration up on high, it's still going to slide down, but we want to slow down the roll to authoritarianism. We've got to push back. Otherwise, it's going to slide down a lot more rapidly.
Keep speaking up. The most recent edition of the Bray, I assume most of our listeners probably get that. I did write an op-ed that kind of speaks directly to this topic of the importance of speaking up. And like I was saying, you can go in Columbia, you could pop over to the House office building, and once you get through security, you could take the elevator up to whatever floor your representative is on. And if they're in the office,
say hi. You
could say hi. And more often than not, most of them will talk to you, including Republicans. I'm not bashing Republicans. Most of them will sit and talk to you. I was there a few weeks ago, and I talked to several representatives, and they will listen to you. But we need to do more of that. If we want to make a difference, we have to try, and we have to speak up and use our voices.
All right. So at this point, we either say goodbye.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
The Greenville County Democratic Party appreciates your time listening and watching the Whole Truth Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, please follow us, like or subscribe to this channel to help us spread the word. The GCDP wants to thank Michael Fishman from Day Moon Productions for furnishing the recording studio as well as providing his time recording and editing. The Democratic Party needs you to get actively involved and join us at future events. You can find out about them at multiple locations like the GCDP website, greenvilledemocrats.com, and browse the events calendar. You can also keep up with us through our social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. Look for @GVLDem. Thanks again for listening. Let's get out there and do what we can to rebuild our government into one that serves us all. Thanks.